Hey there, folks, ever heard of the Irish mob? Of course you have. They're the stuff of legends whispered about in hushed tones. Get ready for a wild ride. We're diving deep into the dark and dangerous world of the Irish mob. From their humble beginnings to their rise as criminal masterminds, we'll meet the ruthless gangsters, we'll uncover their secrets, and we'll explore their impact on the world. Buckle up, because this is one history lesson you won't forget. Picture this, Ireland, the 19th century. Times are tough, famine ravages the land. The Great Hunger, as it was called, left no family untouched. Crops failed, and with them the hopes of millions. People are desperate, starvation and disease spread like wildfire. Entire villages were emptied as people fled their homeland, seeking a glimmer of hope elsewhere. They seek a new life in America. The land of opportunity, they called it. But the journey was perilous. Ships were overcrowded and conditions were harsh. Many didn't survive the voyage. Those who did arrived on American shores, weary but hopeful, clutching onto dreams of a better future. But opportunity doesn't come easy. The streets of America were not paved with gold. Instead, they found themselves in overcrowded neighborhoods, living in squalid tenements. The promise of prosperity seemed a distant dream as they struggled to make ends meet. The Irish find themselves at the bottom rung of society. They took on the hardest, most menial jobs, digging canals, laying railroad tracks, and working in factories. Despite their hard work, they were paid meager wages, barely enough to survive. They faced discrimination, poverty, and violence. No Irish need apply signs were a common sight, a stark reminder of their unwelcome status. Anti-Irish sentiment ran deep, leading to riots and violent clashes. They were seen as outsiders, unworthy of the American dream. What's a lad to do? Some turned to crime. In the face of relentless adversity, some young men saw no other way out. The rough neighborhoods they lived in became breeding grounds for criminal activity. It was a way to survive. Street fights and petty theft became common as they navigated the harsh realities of urban life. For many, it was a matter of survival, a way to put food on the table, to fight back against a system that seemed rigged against them. They organized protests and strikes demanding fair treatment and better working conditions. Clashes with the police were frequent as they fought for their rights and dignity, and so the seeds of the Irish mob were sown. Out of desperation and necessity, organized crime began to take root. The Irish mob emerged, a powerful force in the underworld, born from the struggles and resilience of a people determined to survive against all odds. In the crowded, crime-ridden streets of cities like New York, Boston, and Chicago, the Irish mob found their calling. They formed tight-knit gangs. They looked out for their own. They used their fists and their wits to carve out their territory. They ran the docks, the unions, and the political machines. They weren't afraid of anyone, and they quickly learned the ins and outs of the criminal underworld. Their rise was swift and brutal. They were a force to be reckoned with. Every good story needs its characters. And the Irish mob had some real characters, let me tell you. Take Mickey the Owl Daly, for instance. A cunning strategist with a knack for making money. Or how about Whitey Bulger, the notorious Boston gangster who ruled with an iron fist. These men were ruthless, ambitious, and deadly. They left a trail of blood and money in their wake. Their names became synonymous with the Irish mob. Their legends live on to this day. Section 5, Rackets, Riches, and Ruthlessness. This chapter delves into the dark and shadowy world of the Irish mob, a group that rose to power through sheer audacity and a willingness to break every rule in the book. So how did the Irish mob make their money? Their methods were as varied as they were ruthless. They didn't just dabble in one type of crime, they diversified their portfolio, so to speak. Let's just say they weren't afraid to get their hands dirty. Violence was a tool they wielded with precision, ensuring that fear kept their operations running smoothly. They ran the gamut of criminal enterprises. From extortion and loan sharking to gambling and drug trafficking, they had a hand in every illicit activity you could think of. Extortion was a favorite. They would offer protection to businesses, and those who refused often found themselves in dire situations. They controlled the docks, skimming profits from legitimate businesses. The docks were a crucial point of control, allowing them to oversee the flow of goods and money. They would take a cut from every shipment, ensuring a steady stream of income. They ran speakeasies during Prohibition, supplying booze to thirsty customers. Prohibition was a golden era for them as the demand for illegal alcohol skyrocketed. They smuggled in liquor from Canada and set up hidden bars where people could drink in secret. They were masters of opportunity, always ready to exploit a weakness or bend a rule. Bribery was another tool in their arsenal. They had officials on their payroll, ensuring that law enforcement turned a blind eye to their activities, and they amassed a fortune in the process. Their wealth was displayed in the form of luxurious homes, expensive cars, and lavish parties. They lived a life of opulence, funded by their criminal endeavors. The Irish mob story is one of ambition, cunning, and a relentless pursuit of power and wealth. Section 6. Turf Wars and Bloody Battles. The criminal underworld is a dangerous place, and the Irish mob didn't rise to the top without making some enemies along the way. They clashed with other gangs, fighting for control of territory and rackets. There were shootings, bombings, and brutal beatings. The streets ran red with blood. One particularly bloody feud was with the Jewish mob. Think Bugsy Siegel versus Meyer Lansky. It was a clash of cultures, of styles, and of sheer willpower. Section 7. The ultimate nemesis, the Italian Mafia. But the Irish mob's most enduring rivalry was with the Italian Mafia. This rivalry wasn't just a simple clash of gangs, it was a battle of cultures, strategies, and sheer willpower. The Italian Mafia, also known as La Cosa Nostra, had roots that ran deep into the very fabric of American society, especially in cities like New York and Chicago. These two criminal juggernauts were locked in a constant power struggle. The Italian Mafia, with its intricate network of families and its strict adherence to the Code of Omerta, was a well-oiled machine. They had connections in high places, from politicians to law enforcement, which made them a formidable adversary, each vying for dominance in the underworld. The Irish mob, on the other hand, was known for its street-level operations and its ability to adapt quickly to changing circumstances. They were scrappy, resourceful, and had a knack for turning the tables on their enemies. The Italians, with their strict hierarchy and code of silence, or omerta, were a formidable foe. Their operations were meticulously planned, and their loyalty to the family was unwavering. This made them incredibly difficult to infiltrate and even harder to bring down. The Irish, known for their brawling and street smarts, were not to be outdone. They had their own code of honor and a fierce sense of loyalty to their own. Their ability to blend into the urban landscape and their streetwise tactics made them a constant thorn in the side of the Italian Mafia. The battles between these two gangs were legendary. From brutal street fights to elaborate heists, each side was constantly trying to outmaneuver the other. These confrontations often spilled over into the public eye, making headlines and capturing the imagination of the public, full of double crosses, betrayals, and cold-blooded murder. The stories of these conflicts are filled with intrigue and suspense, as alliances were made and broken and lives were lost in the pursuit of power and control. The legacy of this rivalry continues to be a fascinating chapter in the history of organized crime. Even the baddest of the bad need friends, right? The Irish mob was no different. They forged alliances with other criminal organizations when it suited their needs. They worked with Jewish gangsters on certain rackets. They even collaborated with the Italian Mafia when there was a common enemy or a mutually beneficial opportunity. In the world of organized crime, there are no permanent friends or enemies, only opportunity and self-preservation. The Irish mob wasn't content with just controlling the streets of American cities. Oh no, they had bigger ambitions. They expanded their operations overseas, establishing a presence in places like England, Australia, and even Ireland itself. They used their connections and expertise to smuggle drugs, guns, and other contraband around the world. They became players on the international stage. Their influence stretched far and wide. Today, the Irish mob may not hold the same sway it once did, but its legacy lives on. In the annals of crime, they are remembered as a force to be reckoned with, a ruthless and powerful organization that left a bloody mark on history. Their story is a reminder of the dark side of the American dream, of the allure of power and the seductive nature of violence. And there you have it, folks, a glimpse into the rise and reign of the Irish mob. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more to explore, from the bloody gang wars to the intricate inner workings of their criminal enterprises. So stay tuned, my friends, because we'll be back soon with more tales from the dark side.